Welcome to NPT Banking. This is your host Nitant Trilokekar, welcoming you to another discussion. This time, our discussion is on a latest news that banks have requested Reserve Bank of India to give relaxation on its recent guidelines on ATM cash replenishment. So the banks have said that replenishing ATMs in rural geographies will require significant higher investments. Now, this is in reaction to the earlier news about a month earlier that the Reserve Bank of India will start charging penalty for ATMs which are running out of cash for 10 hours in a month. A lot of YouTube blog makers have heralded it as consumers, saying that we were suffering from this, etc., and therefore this is a welcome. I would like to just remind all of them and us that there are two sides to a coin. And for example, let us say your bank is offering a 30% rate of interest on deposit. You would just love it. But I would like you to pause and think, to earn that 30%, what rate of interest would it have to give? Let us say it has to recover its infrastructure cost and the payment to the shareholders, etc. So they will have to lend at minimum 40%. Now, what kind of borrower will borrow at 40%? Is it going to come back? Similarly, is this a practical thing? I'm sure that all of us, including myself, we have been inconvenienced by certain ATMs which are perpetually out of cash. Now, perpetually out of cash and 10 hours a month out of cash, and how to go about doing it is a tightrope walk. That is what is under discussion in this clip. Before we go ahead, I would like to remind you a little bit of the first ATM, which was in England, of course. The purpose of this and the purpose of the ATMs today is the same, that is providing convenience. This ATM, the first ATM, was made on demand of the workers in England, saying that they have to work from Monday to Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, if the banks are closed, how can they withdraw any cash? Therefore, this ATM was manufactured and it was installed. Recently, 50 years of the golden anniversary of this ATM has occurred, and at the same place, a smaller window ATM, hole in the wall ATM as they call it, is installed in gold color, signifying the 50th anniversary, the golden anniversary. The crowd on the left hand side, the first ATM, is not for withdrawing cash but for the curiosity value. I can assure you, because it is reputed that the first customers, that is the earlier customers of the ATM, were mainly gamblers and certain seedy sections of the society who did not want to show their face to the cashier. Why and how, let us not look into that. It was developed by John Shepherd Barron, who was born in Meghalaya, India. And the funny part about the PIN number of the ATMs, why they are only 4 and not 6, because his wife couldn't remember only 4 digits. But it is a matter of convenience to all of us, and this is possibly a rare crowd for the ATM at the time of either demonetization or a run on the bank, where the people were worried about the cash balance in the bank. I will remind you of a story a few years earlier, that is maybe a decade ago, when the stock exchange market fell, and also it was a long weekend, and the ATMs of a private sector bank ran dry. And because it ran dry, there were a lot of rumors saying that even this bank has fallen into bad times and therefore it has run out of cash. They had a heavy loss of reputation at that point of time, and they had to replenish it over holidays and barely recovered from that. Therefore, after that, long weekends and holidays, all the banks are very careful in uploading the cash. Just a point of clarification here, that we are not talking about this kind of ATM, but the ATM that deals with, that is dispenses cash. The full form, of course, is automatic teller machine, and not Anytime Money, which was a brand name of some Indian bank which had given to their ATMs. And of course, the joke about cash not being available, in Marathi they used to call it aseल तर मिळेल, that is, in case it is available you will get it. The short form aseल तर मिळेल is, aseल is A, T is तर, and then मिळेल is M. But jokes apart, let's go to the next slide. Till today, when the ATM is out of service or out of cash, honestly these boards were available. Now the ATM being out of service can be a technology issue of the ATM, or sometimes even a network issue. This we must try to appreciate and understand. And of course, this photograph is here, where of course the security person is compulsory according to the RBI regulations, and he is available. The regulations have never specified him to be awake. Possibly that is a loophole. And I have pointed out that this is not grouted to the floor as required by RBI. Perhaps the auditor in me really starts up and notices only those kind of things. So a lot of, this is the point I am trying to make, is that the Reserve Bank of India has mentioned a lot of points for the ATM security. It should be grounded to the floor, there should be a CCTV, and there should be, except lot of things. And it's all for the safety of the consumer, and these are costly items which the banks are doing already. The ATM themselves require an air conditioned environment to work in, and therefore this is a running cost for them also. Certain banks like this bank have almost all of their ATMs attached to the branches now, which is a very helpful thing, because in case of cash replenishment they can see in the morning, they can see in the evening, or if somebody complains in the afternoon also in between, they can immediately rush next door and then find out what is wrong with the machine and then take corrective steps. I am aware that only one ATM is off-site and all of them are at the branches, which is looks like a very strategic decision made by the top management of this bank. But the reality is that you and I sometimes go on a holiday in a very nice place to walk in the morning, and then realize that we do require cash for certain reasons, and therefore on hill stations also certain ATMs are available. Now you can see that this place is Matheran, which is close to Bombay, and it is accessible only by a toy train, or you can go by car halfway up and then walk it up. Only horses are allowed there, horse carts are not allowed there. And therefore a question arises, how will this ATM of this bank, even though it is near the railway station, it is a toy train which does not have the frequency of a suburban train of any city. Therefore, how will this cash be replenished to this ATM? The answer perhaps is that carry it by horse, just like in the old Wild West, and to protect it possibly 2 more horses with 2 more riders with rifles and slinging guns and etc. like the old Wild West. I mooted this idea, and even the horse is finding it very, very funny, because I sincerely don't know how that ATM is being replenished with cash. Because at Matheran, when you go, you can see a lot of monkeys there, and they grab anything which they see, thinking it is edible. I remember one information technology person of a bank was carrying a hard disk of the computer. Just because he was carrying it in a wrapped in paper or plastic bag or something like that, that attracted the attention of the monkeys. He grabbed it and then bit it. If not finding it tasty, he threw it down the valley. So moving cash also possibly is a very dangerous thing in this kind of situations. But the bank has attempted, who has given this ATM, has attempted to give convenience to the consumers, and that is where the crux lies. It is for our convenience that these ATMs exist. Now there is one circular which talked about losses and robbery of the cash vans which were moving, and therefore say 8 p.m. to 5 p.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So no cash to be loaded at night, and Naxal accepted areas 9 to 3. Now, in this kind of a situation, if a ATM runs out of cash at 4 p.m. and if a cash van is not to be plied after 5 p.m., it cannot reach there before 5 p.m. because it's a rural area, it may be far from the center from where the cash has to be picked up. Then in one day itself, the ATM of this bank has logged in more than 10 hours, which is equal to 10,000 rupees penalty, just because at some reason it has run out of cash. Maybe it's a long weekend, maybe it's a festival, maybe somebody required it more, and although there's a limit per day, maybe the family has got or friends have got contribution idea over there, somebody is hospitalized, and each of my friends, let's say 6-7 of them, 10,000, so 60,000, and that was the balance which was available, which was to be replenished the next day. So this kind of dangerous situations will exist, and the fear is that the banks will put up their hands and say, okay, fine, from the cash replenishment area to the ATM, the distance is too much, and we'll close down the ATM. As it is, they have invested in the cost of the ATM, the cost of the AC, the security of the area, the grouting of the ATM, etc. So the implication is very bad. I mean, the branch attached ATMs have to be checked in opening closing hours. Fine, but I'll tell you a joke. When I mentioned this to a bank during one of the audit, the person officer who was supposed to check it in the morning, he said, "Arey, you are giving me an extra work. Will I get an allowance?" Luckily, most of the bankers are not with that kind of attitude, but at least those ATMs which are next to the bank branch are very convenient to service. Then they have to also do weekend and holiday forecasting. Long holidays, long weekends, and of course you have to consider the Indian festivals also, because festivals require last minute shopping, and last minute shopping means last minute cash withdrawal, and therefore a lot of people will be doing that. So no more the textbook once or twice a week refilling of remote ATMs. It's no more kind of a thumb rule. You have to do something very intelligent. So what intelligent can you do? Continuous reporting of balance to the central office by the ATM via VSAT, because it's distance, or it should only report when it reaches a threshold trigger balance. That threshold trigger will also have to be determined on a scientific or let us say statistical basis. So these are the ATMs with VSAT, but this VSAT is currently being used for the authorization. So maybe they can also be used for the reporting of the balance, but what balance should they be replenished is up to each bank, and possibly a lot of model building has to be done over there. So this new model will have to contain the following variables: different model for the branch attached and independent ATM, because independent ATMs are a little far away or may not be far away. So, but the formula should be different, and it should have a holiday calendar in it with festivals. Also, see the speed of withdrawals. I have seen one ATM through a CCTV that the door hardly even closes. It is next to a station in a suburban area of Bombay, and the client, the customer who leaves the ATM, the next person enters it even before the door is closed. It's such a traffic over there. That ATM will have to be replenished. I think was being replenished every half day. Forget every day. Luckily, that was next to the branch, so they could be doing it at night. I don't know what was the traffic. So possibly the traffic and time of the day, the speed of the withdrawal and time of the day, that is important. And distance from the radius cash replenishment area, that is which branch is going to do that, or is it centralized, or is it a third party contract. So what is the distance to go and come back, and within the time frame of the sent by the Reserve Bank of India. This time frame is virtually like tying the hands behind and asking that person to do boxing. Proximity to mall and late shopping areas will have a different model, or it will have the aspect of the time of the day dovetailed into the model. and a lot of combinations are there more. What will this bank do? When the ATM itself is stolen, they cannot replenish the cash because there is no machine. So technically the ATM service is not provided for more than 10 hours until they get a new machine. Now to get a new machine requires the same gamut of floating tenders and then etc. etc. That is not going to be done in a single hour or a single day. That takes time. Meanwhile, I think the bank will unfortunately have to be pay the penalty for the lack of security. So does that mean that if the ATMs go down, we require more vending machines? Possibly. But then the vending machines give you just tea, coffee and snacks. Frankly speaking, no. Look at this. The vending machines can give you cards also. So possibly if the more vending machines come in, I am saying this with full sarcasm, if more vending machines come in, we don't require the ATMs. Well, that's all folks. I leave you with the vending machine of a car, a small car maybe. Tomorrow big car will come there. And then please stay tuned. Send your comments below. And if you like it, send your likes, which is an encouragement for me also.